It was an imaginary conversation between Trump written in the third person. Donald said, "A pal is a wonderful thing. Happy birthday, and may every day be another wonderful secret." What a ridiculous thing. All these articles are showing damage. It's all fake. Overwhelming financial and reputational damages. No doubt, it's a lot of views, man. You are now sued, and Trump, better listen to this, Rupert, is demanding that you pay him $10 billion out of your derriere. Trump sues Rupert Murdoch and Dow Jones and the Wall Street Journal. They wrote that stupid story about Trump drawing an image of a stick figure woman and then signing his name on the line, and weird story that nobody bought at all. Trump said, "You better not publish that or I'm going to sue you into oblivion," and now he has made good on that promise. You see, this is a complaint filed against Rupert Murdoch, and there's another one that is also filed. I think they'll probably be consolidated, and there'll probably be some refilings here. This got filed very quickly, and I think that we'll probably see some permutations on this case. But here's the crux of the demand, and it's not only against Rupert Murdoch and the News Corp, which runs Fox News, it's also Dow Jones, Wall Street Journal, and everybody involved from President Trump as an individual. And look where this lawsuit is being filed. Southern District of Florida in Miami. You know who's down there? Judge Eileen Cannon, who had the Jack Smith case, who said he's not a real boy, not even a real prosecutor, needs to get out. And so we talked about a lot of that, but here is now Trump suing Rupert and the News Corp and Wall Street Journal and the rest of them. They said, all right, look, grounded in facts, shaped by experience, and defined by editorial standards that don't waver. Quote. Now that's the Dow Jones and Company, the publisher of the Wall Street Journal. That's what their maxim says on the banner of its website. They hold itself out to the world as an honest and forthcoming broker of newsworthy material. But yet, in their malicious and deliberate and despicable actions, they show plainly that they do not practice what they preach. They just say that stuff. It's just like in 1984, right? They just make up the phrases, they say it enough, and you're like, oh, just like, oh, fair and balanced, fair and balanced, fair and balanced. Come on. But it works, right? A lot of that works. And I think, what is the Washington Post? Democracy dies in darkness. Like, what are you talking about? First of all, we're not a democracy. And secondly, you're the darkness. So on July 17th, defendants Khadijah and Joseph, these two, Joseph Palazzolo, and remember, Joseph Palazzolo was the same guy who worked on the Stormy Daniels story and the same guy who, a lot of other very close connections to other Trump hoaxes in his past, I think, even including the Steele stuff. Now, co-authored and published an article largely focused on President Trump. They claim that he authored, drew, and signed a card to wish the late and utterly disgraced Jeffrey Epstein a happy 50th birthday. Now, to attempt inextricably link Trump to Epstein, the defendants who wrote the article falsely claimed that the salacious language of the letter is contained within a hand-drawn naked woman, which was created with a heavy marker. And worse, the authors falsely represent as a fact, they say it's factual, that Trump drew the naked woman's breasts and signed his name Donald before her waist, which was mimicking pubic hair. Perplexingly, however, the letter is a typewritten note, styled as an imaginary conversation between Trump and Epstein, and it's written in the third person, according to the Wall Street Journal, quoting them. Now, indeed, the authors provide a series of quotes from the non-existent letter, claiming that the letter was written in the third person, beginning with a voiceover interluding a conversation, followed by a purported dialogue between Trump and Epstein, as if they're characters in a play. We read it. It was weird. On the one hand, the authors falsely pass off as a fact that Trump in 2003 wrote, drew, and signed this letter. Now, on the other hand, they also failed to attach the letter. There is no letter. They failed to attach the drawing. They failed to show proof that Trump authored or signed it at all. And they failed to explain how this purported letter was even obtained. It's just some letter they got out of a dumpster, out of John Brennan's butt. The reason for those failures is because no authentic letter or drawing even exists. In fact, defendants concocted this story to malign President Trump's character and integrity and deceptively portray him in a false light. Now, despite the glaring failures in journalistic ethics and standards of accurate reporting, these people knew that it was bad. And Murdoch orchestrated this, told them to publish this document in a false and defamatory and a malignant statement that harms the president. Hundreds of millions of people have already viewed the false and defamatory statements that were published by them. And given the timing of their article, which shows their malicious intent behind it, the overwhelming financial and reputational harm suffered by Trump will continue to multiply. Now, you know who these people are. It's America's favorite president, 45 and 47, as a private citizen suing. We've also got Dow Jones, Wall Street Journal, News Corp, Rupert Murdoch, Robert Thompson, all getting sued along with the authors of this fake news article. And they're suing in Florida, and they give us some more background. They say, on July 15th, Palazzolo, the Stormy Daniels hoaxer, also sent an email to Caroline Levitt. Caroline got an email. He said, "Hey, Caroline, we're going to publish a fake article about Trump writing a letter of a naked woman. What do you have to say about it?" Now, that same afternoon, Trump's lawyer sent an email back, said, "Your article is false. Don't you even dare publish that," his lawyers. Caroline's like, "Oh no, I'm not handling this." Send it to that guy. Purported letter, he said, "Never happened. You must cease and desist from publishing this. It's false and defamatory." Now, they didn't respond. They just said, "Oh crap, the lawyers responded? All right, what do we do?" Then on July 17th, they published it. It went live. The article was an exclusive, they said. However, hundreds of millions of people have seen it since then, because it's not that exclusive. And so they falsely, in the article, falsely and maliciously stated that Trump drew, authored, and signed the letter. They elaborated on this, saying his signature was mimicking pubic hair. Next, they wrote some stupid script out of an imaginary conversation that sounds insane. Voiceover. "There must be more to life than having everything." And then Donald and Jeffrey Epstein are having some colloquy together. Despite these unsubstantiated claims, however, the article does not attach the purported letter. It does not identify the purported drawing, doesn't show any proof that Trump had anything to do with it. You can't even compare the signatures. Now, I think they'll probably publish something at some point, right? They like to kind of drip these things out, so we'll see if something comes. But tellingly, the article does not explain whether they even have obtained a copy of the letter, have seen it, have it described to them, or any other circumstances that would have credibility. That is because the supposed letter is a fake. They knew it was fake and they published it anyways. Now, on the one hand, the article states it isn't clear how the letter with Trump's signature was prepared, but on the other hand, they pass off the false, defamatory, and disparaging and inflammatory statements as fact. They falsely claim, without substantiation, that Trump is a friend or a pal or family of Epstein. In fact, the article contains false statements that are defamatory per se, right? You just say it. It's defamation. Here, in a letter bearing Trump's name, which was reviewed by the Journal, is body. Like others in the album, it contains several lines of typewritten text framed by the outline of a naked woman, which appears to be hand-drawn with heavy marker. They wrote, "A pair of small arcs denotes the woman's breasts," and there were stick figure boobs all over X yesterday. It's wild scene out there. "And the future president's signature is a squiggly Donald below her waist mimicking pubic hair." And they're saying, you're basically saying that he is engaged in sexual impropriety here, saying it isn't clear how the letter with Trump's signature was prepared. Oops. Inside the outline, it was an imaginary conversation between Trump written in the third person. Donald said, "A pal is a wonderful thing. Happy birthday, and may every day be another wonderful secret." What a ridiculous thing. The article also contains the following statements that are implicitly defamatory. Said, Trump is friends with Epstein, and Epstein's family and friends were there. One of them is Trump. The album also had poems from childhood pals, and that Trump was socializing with Epstein. Entertain them and more. Now, despite the clear journalistic failures of due diligence and the accuracy of the article, this attorney on behalf of Trump says, at the direction of Rupert Murdoch, hundreds of millions of people have seen this, and everyone knew, Murdoch and the rest of them, that this was fake. Now, within hours of its publication, the article went viral. Everybody was talking about it. The article was also widely republished on X. The Wall Street Journal amplified the engagement and published it on its X account. Thus far, it's got 6.8 million unique impressions on the X post, which is a lot of people. They also placed it on the front page of their article. The Lincoln Project also republished it to its 2.8 million followers. Colin Rugg, 1.8 million followers. He shared it too. Now, Keith Olbermann, oh man, Mouth Spittle Keith, says he published it. He's got 900,000 followers. Republished several of the false and defamatory statements. To date, it has received over 200,000. Klippenstein, The Wall Street Journal, more posts. It was the #1 trending topic on X. All these articles are showing damage. It's all fake. Overwhelming financial and reputational damages. No doubt, it's a lot of views, man. All of it illegal. And so, you committed defamation. You published these statements maliciously. You have knowledge of their falsity, but you published them anyways. None of your statements were privileged. Trump had access and the right to say that they were false, and your statements harm his professional reputation by saying he associates with PDF files. And it's also defamation per quad, saying you also publish these statements all over the world, and you had actual malice, and it harms the reputation, and it's causing damage. And so therefore, you are now sued, and Trump, you better listen to this, Rupert, is demanding that you pay him $10 billion out of your derriere. Rupert, Robert, and Joseph, $10 billion or else. Alejandro Brito, sending that one in over from Coral Gables, Florida. And we hope this case gets assigned to Judge Eileen Cannon because she's an amazing judge. We'll see if that happens in the Southern District of Florida, but $10 billion. Rupert, you better cough it up there, buddy boy. That's the consequence for peddling lies and defamatory false information. all across the interwebs, and we'll see what happens in Florida. We'll keep our coverage on this one, my friends. Thanks for joining and subscribing as we do.